Show. You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Locking down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
And good afternoon, everyone. Jeff Palermo here with you from the Louisiana Radio Network, News and Sports Director, filling in for Hunt Palmer on this fabulous Friday afternoon in the capital city. We are glad that you are a part of the show here on ESPN 104.5 and 104.9. Got a lot of stuff to get through here over the next couple of hours as we have a big sports weekend coming up. Of course, LSU football playing Wisconsin in the ReliaQuest Bowl on New Year's Day at 11 a.m. We'll talk quite a bit about that and also look ahead to what's next after LSU finishes up that game against the Wisconsin Badgers and what kind of changes we might see with the coaching staff and so forth. So we'll get into all that. Speaking of changes with the coaching staff, the Saints, they'll be in Tampa on Sunday as well, taking on the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers can win the NFC South for a third consecutive season. New Orleans will try to stop that. We're going to hear from Ross Jackson, Locked On Saints podcast host. He's going to join us here in about 10 minutes or so to help preview that. We'll preview, obviously, LSU, Wisconsin. We're going to hear from the two respective play-by-play men on the radio side, Matt LePay, the voice of the Badgers, and then Chris Blair, the voice of the Tigers in hour number 2. Looking forward to a great day of national semifinal college football action on Saturday, New Year's Day with the Rose Bowl. And Michigan taking on Alabama. And then, of course, the nightcap in the Sugar Bowl with Washington and Texas. We'll talk with Jerry Palm from CBSSports.com about that. And LSU basketball, they return from the Christmas break. They'll be taking on Northwestern State tonight at 7 o'clock. Sheldon Mickles covers the Fighting Tigers for The Advocate. We'll talk with him to get you a preview of the game. So a lot to get to. And it all starts off with Preston Guy, who joins us here on the Hunt Palmer Show. Preston, thanks a lot for joining us. Jeff Palermo here with you. How you doing, man? Preston Guy from Tiger Bait.
Hey, Jeff. How's it going? Hope you had a happy holiday and happy New Year coming up.
Oh, I had a great holiday. I hope you did too. Let's just jump right into it, Preston. We finally got some sort of clarity on what's going on with Lance Hurd as Brian Kelly spoke with the media today in Tampa. We know that he has not been in Tampa, and that's obviously a lot of speculation on what's happening with Lance Hurd, a five-star prospect who has appeared in every game this season, started a game against Army, and today Coach Brian Kelly said, well, he is evaluating and looking at his future, and they'll get back with him after the bowl game. Yes, your thoughts on this situation and how surprised were you when the news leaked out that Lance did not make the trip to Tampa?
Yeah, it caught me off guard, but, the fact that he would be exploring options, if when you look at the context of what's going on with him, it makes sense. We're talking about a guy who's five-star offensive tackle, very good player, and he plays offensive tackle, and, just so happens in the class before him, LSU might have signed the best two offensive tackles it's ever signed in a class with Will Campbell and Emory Jones doing their thing. So in this day and age of NIL transfer portal, does it really surprise me that a talented player who is going to have to really work and grind to earn a spot next year with 4 out of 5 offensive linemen returning, including the 2 at his position who play offensive tackle, he could go get a handsome NIL deal and go somewhere else and be a starter. And I think that's pretty tough for a lot of kids to pass up. So I think both of those play factors. I think playtime and NIL deals are in play here. So LSU's got a lot of work to get him back, and you really want him. I don't say need because, quite frankly, Brad Davis has done an outstanding job of just stockpiling talent for the offensive line. But you would really want him. You really want him next year to help out.
No, there's no doubt about it. So you see Miles Frazier and Garrett Dellinger both returning next season?
I believe so. I haven't heard anything to contradict that yet.
So that, and then obviously Charles Turner, who hasn't said anything official, but has said that he's playing in the Senior Bowl, which basically makes it official. And so the idea was, I think, as this season was going on, that either Garrett or Miles Frazier would decide to go and enter their name into the NFL draft, that would open up a spot for Lance Hurd if Emory Jones moved down to guard, but that doesn't seem likely. A lot of, about 8 or 9 kids jumped into the transfer portal from LSU, but none of them, you looked at them and said, oh, that one stings. This one, though, Preston, would sting. And I understand what you're saying about Brad Davis and what he's done as far as recruiting, but a 5-star prospect from the state of Louisiana, you just hate to let go.
No, and that's why I call it a want. You really do want him. And the 10 kids who have entered the portal thus far, the closest to that kind of hurts is Marlon Martinez, who's transferring to Mississippi State, because you figure with Charles Turner playing in the Senior Bowl, he's not going to use his COVID year. And, he was looking like the backup center, but I believe that there's some buzz around what DJ Chester is doing. They're really high on him at center. And if you remember in the Missouri game, I believe Marlon Martinez messed up a snap or something early, and they turned to DJ Chester. So I'm wondering if that's a writing on the wall situation. Regardless, to get Lance Hurd on the field next year, you're going to have to do some reshuffling of something. It's not just going to be, the right tackle's gone next year, so just slide him in there. You're going to have to get crafty to get Lance Hurd on the field. That being said, he's absurdly talented. You do not want to lose a kid from your own state like that and have him probably playing for a rival, because, if NIL and all that stuff, you best believe someone like an Ole Miss is going to be there to to dole out some money and get him on board.
Talking with Preston Guy from Tiger Bait. This is Jeff Palermo filling in for Hunt Palmer on this Friday afternoon, and Hunt Palmer shows on Fridays presented by Corks. How excited are you to see Garrett Dellinger get a start, or not Garrett Dellinger, Garrett Nussmeier get a start on Monday at 11 a.m.?
Well, for the record, I also am excited to see Garrett Dellinger.
Yeah, who isn't excited to see Garrett Dellinger?
What a guy, Garrett Dellinger. But no, it's funny. As long as the Nuss bus has been, those guys have been pushing so hard, they finally get their opportunity. I think this is going to be a good opportunity for him to showcase he can be a consistent quarterback, not just a guy who's good for 1 or 2 Brett Favre plays, and then in between very mundane. I'm hoping he can work on his medium and short passing game and take those options more often and move the ball with some consistency, not just looking for the big plays. If he doesn't show off with, say, at least a 250-yard game or something like that, with Brian Thomas and Malik Neighbors both suiting it up here and one of the best offensive lines in the country fully intact, man, that could spell trouble for next year, because you're not going to have those top 2 receivers next year in all likelihood.
Well, how long are they even going to play in this game, Preston? Are you under the belief that once Neighbors gets the record, all-time receiving yardage record at LSU, he bails on this game?
Absolutely not. I mean, how long have we been watching football? I've never seen that happen for any team, anyone ever. Anybody break the record and then abandon their team. Like, nah, guys, I'm good. I got my record. I know we're trailing 10-7 to Wisconsin right now, but I got to go. I'm out you. You know what I mean? Like, no, that's never happened, and you're not going to practice 15 games to go make 1 catch for 22 yards. That's a bit of a silly circumstance. Like, you're not going to travel to Florida and practice 15 games and all that, suit up, like, just to abandon your team at halftime or after the first drive. No, I do not expect anything like that. I think that's just more of fans kind of buzzing that up, saying, he'll just break the record and then we're good. I don't think that I could never. Now, do I see a tighter lead? Do I see if LSU goes up, say, 17 in the second quarter, they may say, all right, we're good. Yeah, I could see something like that, but, man, break the record and pull out. Come on now. What are we talking about?
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, if you're in it this far, you might as well just stick it out. Your thoughts, Preston, on what Coach Brian Kelly does with offensive coordinator? Does he promote Joe Sloan? Is that the natural thing to do here?
It is the natural thing to do, and Joe Sloan is a brilliant, respected mind. He's a guy who's had input on the offense, and he will be the one actually dialing in the plays, as Brian Kelly clarified. He worked with Cortez Hankton on the game plan, but he'll be the one in the box calling the plays. So this is a big debut for Joe Sloan. I definitely think this is an audition. I think if you go out there with most of your offense and staff that was the number one offense in the country, minus your Heisman winner, or I mean, we're not going to minimize that even for a second, but it's not like you don't have a capable backup going out there, and your offense looks terrible. Say, like, remember the Outback Bowl in 2013 when Mettenberger tore his ACL and Anthony Jennings went out there and threw for $150 while throwing to, Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry. If we see something like that, I don't know, maybe you don't turn to Joe Sloan.
Yeah. Well, then
I'm not expecting that.
There's questions about Nussmeier too. I mean, that's the
thing.
Of course.
Yeah. Of course there are. There's questions about lots of people, but I don't expect that. I think the offense is going to be pretty good still. And I think that Joe Sloan is the guy to turn to. I think that other factors that go into that, not only is he a bright mind and a respected offensive mind, a great recruiter. Recruits love him.
Yeah.
And Bryce Underwood, I talked to Bryce Underwood's dad, wrote a nice little feature story about a month ago. He raves about Joe Sloan. And doing this would ensure Joe Sloan will stick around a while and probably keep a guy like the number one recruit in the country for 2025 in, you'll keep him in your hat here. He makes his decision on January 6th. So that's right after the bowl game. So if you were to promote Joe Sloan by then, I think you'd feel pretty good about landing the number one player in the country for 2025.
And I think a big reason, Preston, the success LSU has had offensively this year is because they had so much returning and coming back from 2022. There were not many major changes. I mean, there was, if anything, there were just additions like Logan Diggs and finding a featured running back. And obviously you're not going to have Mike Denbrock for 2024, but if you want to, and obviously you're not going to have Jaden Daniels and these two top wide receivers and Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas. But if you want to have any kind of a carryover and a level of familiarity, and Garrett Nussmeier has spoken very highly of Joe Sloan, that you would think that Coach Brian Kelly would want to keep that combination in place and not try to change it too much.
Right. And I remember looking at the 2022 Florida State game and just seeing how little chemistry that team had. Because we're talking about basically a whole new football team that had never played with each other before, and a whole new coaching staff that had never coached with each other before. And since then, there's just been so much continuity, so much just retention of players and offensive line coaches, that kind of stuff, that you really saw a lot of chemistry in a lot of places, particularly on the offensive side of the ball, paid dividends this year. So I do think there's something to be said for sticking with that continuity. And the best part about it is, hey, you get a real dress rehearsal with this guy. So it's not like you're just, taking a leap and guessing as to whether or not he can call plays. You literally get to see him do it for a game.
Wrapping it up here with Preston Guy from the Tiger Baits. Let's talk one question here defensively. Okay, do you glean anything off of whatever performance LSU gets out of its defense on Monday? Or is it just, this is Wisconsin's offense. They're not that great. Yeah. They should hold them to 24 points or less or whatever it might end up being. Is there anything you can take away from this, from whatever they do on Monday?
Well, it's going to take a lot to impress me. I mean, we're talking about a Wisconsin team that's trying to pick up an air raid offense this year, and they're ranked 92nd in the country in passing. So it's a little tough to really, and that's really where you attack this LSU defense, is by passing through the air. Plus, they've got 5 offensive players out for this game, including their starting running back opting out and going to the NFL draft. So, sure, if they pitch a shutout, that's a great sign for the future, especially considering you're probably going to return 9 starters on defense. So if you're going to be playing with those guys next year, you'd at least like to see them play good on their last outing against a very manageable offense. But ultimately, in terms of making decisions about your coaching staff and things like that, Jeff, nothing they can do in this bowl game can trump what I saw against Ole Miss, what I saw against Florida State, what I saw, in all their losses where they gave up 42 or more points. They gave up, 31 or 35 to Arkansas. Even Grambling gave them trouble for 3 drives. I mean, this offense has been dreadful this year. There's no, okay, well, they cleaned it up for the bowl game. Saved his job. I think you need to, if you're going to be making coaching staff changes, you need to have made up your mind already. I don't think one bowl game, I think that's, you can't make your decisions off of one game.
Yeah, I agree. Hey, Preston, thanks a lot, man. It was cool catching up with you. Keep up the great work over at Tiger Bait. Enjoy the game. Happy New Year. We appreciate your time today.
All right, see you soon, Jeff. Thank you.
All right, that's Preston Guy in his natural or his usual spot here on the Hunt Palmer Show. When we come back on the Hunt Palmer Show, we're going to talk a little Saints. Speaking of coaching changes, are we going to see anything significant with the New Orleans Saints after they wrap up the regular season in a couple of weeks? Ross Jackson from Locked On Saints podcast host, he will join us. So stay tuned for that here on ESPN 104.5 and 104.9 Baton Rouge.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets, onebathandclosets.com is that website. David Duvall and his team, been in the game 30 years, redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. Just check out the website, onebathandclosets.com. Look at some of the pictures of their great work, whether it's in the bathroom or in the closet. Some of these are full-scale bathroom renovations, and David Duvall and One Bath and Closets handle them from start to finish. You make one phone call, he handles the entire thing. Maybe it's something smaller than that. It's a tub-to-shower conversion, something like that, where you don't use the tub. You pull it out, you put it in a glass walk-in shower that's gorgeous, one, and two, functions like you need it to, as opposed to that tub, which you don't ever use. And on the closet side, just declutter. Use that space a little bit more efficiently. Customize a closet to your exact needs. If you need help with financing, David Duvall and his team can do that at One Bath and Closets. Check out that website, onebathandclosets.com.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has $10,000 off MSRP on new 23 Jeep Grand Cherokee, $10,000 off new Jeep Grand Cherokee, and all new Bayou Automotive vehicles come with a 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
It was a humid day, barefoot children play, looking for that summer shade. Time to slip away. Oh, Louisiana, some kind of hold on me. Like cypress stumps, your roots are planted deep inside of me. Oh,
Would a couple that just came from a couples massage have any use for the massage seats of the Infiniti QX60? Yes, it appears they would. With driver and passenger massage seats, mute all your notifications and feel infinitely you.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp.
Filling in for Hunt Palmer on this Friday afternoon, Jeff Palermo, News and Sports Director of the Louisiana Radio Network. Casey Gaines and Jacob Beck are the producers here. Today, we'll get back into the LSU talk here in a moment, but first, let's talk a little black and gold with Ross Jackson, host of the Locked On Saints podcast. Ross joins us now, and Ross, thanks a lot for spending some time with us today. How you doing? How was your Christmas, and Happy New Year?
Hey, man. Happy holidays. Happy New Year. Merry Christmas to you. I appreciate you so much. Everything's going great. Glad to be here with you. Hope all's well for you.
Everything's going well. In Who Dat Nation, it's been a frustrating season this year. There's no doubt about it. You're looking at a team that on paper seems like it has enough talent. Played a schedule about as easy as you can expect, or as easy as you want, playing a bunch of backup quarterbacks this season. But here they are, fighting for their playoff lives with 2 weeks to go. Why has it not come together? And obviously, you're only on for 10 minutes, so you could probably spend 3 hours on this first question. But why has it not come together this season for the Saints?
Yeah, I think the big kind of overarching or maybe umbrella thing that I'll say is inconsistency, right? So whether it's inconsistency from, a coaching perspective or a play calling perspective, or it's inconsistency from an execution perspective, and that execution could be everything from, losing the special teams, field position battle. It could be slow starts on the offensive side, slow starts on the defensive side, things like that. Inconsistency in offense in terms of their ability to produce. I think inconsistency kind of covers all of it. We have very high expectations. This New Orleans Saints team is a 10-win team going in. At best now, they could walk away with 9 wins and potentially still not make the playoffs despite that. So it's been a tough season for them, and I think all the underlying issues come a lot from sort of inconsistencies, and then I'll throw in communication has been a big deal for this team as well.
Yeah, it's been frustrating. It's a frustrating watch because this team just, as you mentioned, the C word is lacking. There's absolutely no consistency. They may look good for a couple of drives. The slow starts defensively have been very perplexing this year. Obviously, the defense played really well in the first month of the season, and then I don't know whether it's age or just whatever it might be, it's caught up to them a little bit. But the slow starts defensively have been just very tough to watch. What do you make out of that?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, most of the time, whenever we ask questions about it and all, one of the things that we always hear about is, two things that we hear about all the time: eye discipline, tackling. Those are usually the two things. And if you want to see sort of all of that represented in one game, you can look at the first half against Los Angeles Rams last Thursday, and you can kind of see all of it, right? Because the Rams are built to challenge your defense's eye discipline. That's what they do. They run a lot of what we call eye candy, so motion, whether it be pre-snap, post-snap, the same looks but running different plays out of the look, or running the same play out of different looks, things like that, motioning from one look into another. If you look at one of the 95-yard touchdown drive by Los Angeles, I believe it was, it's still in the first quarter, that was a situation to where they actually ran the same play back-to-back on 3 different occasions in that one drive. But because their looks vary so much, it's hard to anticipate that. And so when you're being challenged with your eye discipline, and a challenge of eye discipline is making sure you're trying to get defensive players looking where the ball's not going, or looking where the play's not going, things like that. And then tackling issues, which have been plentiful for the New Orleans Saints so far this year. Those are 2 things that are always, always, always going to hamper your ability to get a fast start over on defense.
Dennis Allen, 14-18 in his 32 games as the head coach of the Saints, 22-46 as a head coach when you include his time with the Oakland Raiders. Me and you, Ross, we talked about this after the loss to the Rams, and I would imagine your stance hasn't changed on this. Your stance on this hasn't changed much, and even though many Saints fans are looking for some major changes, a major shakeup with the franchise, your belief is, and I'll let you kind of go into it a little bit more, is that Dennis Allen, for right now, his seat is not that hot. It's maybe not even lukewarm at this point.
Yeah, and look, whether that's right or wrong by the decision of a decision by the organization, that remains to be seen. But the question of, is his seat hot? Is it not? Right now, it's probably a little bit more towards the not side. I mean, look, this New Orleans Saints team has 2 more games left. There's a chance that if these 2 losses are embarrassing, big blowout losses, that maybe that changes. But as of right now, it feels like everything about this organization is still buying into what they have. And so I think that they would be looking at potentially making changes elsewhere if it comes to any posting changes. Offensive coordinator, of course, being the one that everyone highlights, circles, things like that. Maybe some adjustments over in the offensive line coaching staff as well could be in order. So I think that you would see those changes before you would see the potential head coach change. And one of the reasons why just customarily across the NFL you can kind of expect this is because this is really the first season for Dennis Allen where he's got, quote-unquote, his quarterback, right, Derek Carr. And usually, customarily, the head coach will get 2 seasons with their quarterback. So that's one of the reasons why I expect that he'll probably be the head coach in 2024 with Derek Carr still under center and them trying to just operate with a more sort of updated and a little bit more aggressive offensive play calling style.
There's probably, I mean, the chances, even if they make a good run here, they beat Tampa Bay, Atlanta, somehow get into the playoffs maybe, which I think is doubtful considering the Bucs have the Carolina Panthers to finish out the season. Pete Carmichael, that's the one change that seems most obvious to make, and that has to be probably made.
Yeah, I would expect so. I would be surprised if the Saints did not go that route this offseason. I just think that, when you look at the struggles and we talked about inconsistencies earlier, the inconsistencies that we saw on the offense here in 2023, we saw on the offense in 2022, whether it was Jameis Winston at quarterback, Andy Dalton at quarterback, or Derek Carr at quarterback, we've seen sort of the same things. Taysom Hill or maybe big playmakers being big-time focuses in one game plan, but then disappearing the next week. Runs on 2nd and 10 after incomplete passes on first down, 30, 40-yard deep shots on 3rd and 2, all these things. These are all things that we saw last year as well. And so I think after a moment, if you just kind of break it down and you look at 3 different quarterbacks, several different players, a lot of talent over on the offensive side, what's the common denominator there? It's your offensive coordinator. And so for me, I think that that's the place where it's most likely that you'll see some kind of a change. We never say never in the NFL, as it always is. But it feels like that is the most logical place where a team that wants to take a step forward over on the offensive side of the football in particular looks to make a change.
Wrapping it up here with Ross Jackson from the Locked On Saints podcast network. He's the host of Locked On Saints podcast. I think the other thing that really has Saints fans a little bit down in the dumps is not only has this been a very frustrating season, the future doesn't look all that bright at the moment. I mean, you got an aging defense. It looks like you're going to have Derek Carr as your quarterback, could have Dennis Allen still as your head coach, and there's a lot of fans in the fan base that would like to see changes there. You have offensively, Chris Olave is a good player, but what else do you necessarily have? I mean, where do you see? Is there anything that you could point to and say, okay, hey, this is something maybe that the franchise can point to and say, yeah, this is where we're going, because it's hard to see that at this moment.
Yeah, and so there's a couple of things here. I think like these last 2 games give you an opportunity to really kind of dig into that, right? It turns into evaluation games. Who's a part of the future with this organization, who maybe has a little bit of a lesser role, who maybe isn't returning, that's set to go, things like that. Like, you kind of have to figure that kind of stuff out over the course of the last 2 games, in addition to everything that you've seen from the previous, 15 matchups as well. But I think the other thing, too, is what's so hard to understand and sort of pick out, particularly on the offensive side of the football, who's a part of the future here. Some of the guys, right? Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, Juwan Johnson. These guys are all, a part of the future for sure. Alvin Kamara, all that. But with a team that didn't really seem to have an identity on the offensive side of the football, what are you trying to fit the round pegs into, right? There's no real sort of destination for you to be able to compare things against. So if I'm trying to figure out, okay, so what players best fit the New Orleans Saints offense going into 2024 will be a big part of their future and things like that. You can pick out the top talent, the 5 or 6 guys that are kind of your A-list players, including your quarterback in that scenario. But what's the system that they're fitting into? And that becomes further complicated if you are changing, which, they should, and I would expect that they would make a change at offensive coordinator. So if you're changing your offensive system, what are you changing it to and who fits that? So it becomes very challenging to sort of figure that out. So it's going to be a piece of sort of getting the best tape you can as a player on the field these last 2 weeks, so that whenever that potential change happens, whether it's, offensive system or offensive coordinator, that they have something to look back at and say, okay, this fits what we want to become.
Ross, thanks a lot for your time. Happy New Year once again, and we'll see what happens here. Should be a very interesting time for the organization, especially once they wrap up the season, most likely taking on the Atlanta Falcons a week from Sunday. Thanks a lot for your time today, Ross.
Oh, of course, bud. No problem at all. Take care. Stay safe, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right, that is Ross Jackson, host of the Locked On Saints podcast. So that does it for our Saints talk. It's been a tough season. It's been a tough season. I don't know how much more people can really take at the moment. I think a lot of people are hoping that once the game happens on Sunday against the Buccaneers, Baker Mayfield and Tampa Bay just puts a fork in this team. As you just heard Ross say, it might take just a couple of embarrassing performances against the Bucs and against the Dirty Birds in the regular season finale for those that are in charge of making some big decisions there with the Saints decide, you know what, that might be it for Dennis Allen. But I agree with Ross. There's probably more of a chance that Dennis Allen is back than not in 2024. But I also do feel they have to be looking at, who's renewing at season tickets. What's the level of frustration within the fan base? Is it just complete apathy? Because those type of things do register with an ownership group. And if they feel like a major shakeup is needed, they may have to do it. But it seems, especially when you sign a quarterback to a 4-year deal, and I understand they can get out of that here eventually and not have to have him here for 4 years. But when you make a commitment like that, it's beyond just the 2023 season with him and Dennis Allen at the helm. So we'll take a break. When we come back, we'll get back into the LSU talk. My good friend and the editor of Tiger Rag Magazine, Todd Horn, he'll join us here. You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on ESPN 104.5, 104.9. I'm Jeff Palermo. We'll be right back after this break.
The Hunt Palmer Show. In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
Bayou Ford is taking $15,000 off MSRP on new 23 Ford Expedition. $15,000 off new Ford Expedition. And all new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
The world's leaders in obesity research, obesity medicine, and obesity science are right here.
We're doing something that no one's ever done, or trying to answer a question that no one's ever asked before.
Pennington is a real jewel when it comes to research.
Vienna needs Pennington Biomedical.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has $10,000 off MSRP on new 23 Jeep Grand Cherokee. $10,000 off new Jeep Grand Cherokee. And all new Bayou Automotive vehicles come with a 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
The interior of an Infiniti is thoughtfully designed to be all about you. And by you, we mean every version of you. Because there's luxury you can feel, and there's luxury that lets you feel. Infinitely you.
Musso, join us for Friday's AFR presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar. I'm in for Matt one more day. We're giving you final thoughts on the ReliaQuest Bowl between the Tigers and the Badgers and the Saints' trip to Tampa. It's Friday's AFR 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp.
Sitting in for Hunt Palmer on this Friday afternoon, it's Jeff Palermo, sports director of the Louisiana Radio Network. I do a show every Tuesday night with Tiger Rag editor Todd Horn that you can hear on Talk 107.3 from 6 to 8 o'clock. Todd joins me here in studio, braved the traffic to make it here. I appreciate it.
Oh, I appreciate being here, and I really like the monitors. This is a much better studio than ours.
Yeah, because we have to look at each other at our little studio over at Louisiana Radio Network. But yeah, this is pretty fancy stuff here.
That's cool.
Your thoughts on this 2023 season? I know still one more game to go, but at 9-3, Todd, do you look at this season as a success for Coach Brian Kelly in year 2, even though there were these huge expectations that maybe just he would follow the same path as a Kim Mulkey and Jay Johnson and win a national championship in year number 2?
You know, there's a couple ways to answer that question, and I'm going to answer it as honestly as I can. Okay, I believe that Coach Kelly's disappointed with this season. I think he's happy that obviously Jaden Daniels shocked the country and had this outstanding season and just mesmerized the nation. But I think that he was telling us the truth in the preseason when he thought this team, he was saying, okay, hold your horses on the national championship talk, but we're ready to compete for championships. And if you'll recall, after the Florida State game, he said, we don't know, this team is not who I thought it was.
Yeah.
And I think he meant that. And I think he was shocked by how poor the defense was all year. I think he was equally surprised by how great the offense was. But I think overall he expected to be playing Alabama for the rights to go to the SEC championship. And, and he was, but that didn't work out.
Yeah, if Brian Kelly never wins a national championship, well, there's a good chance that may happen, that he does not win one. He'll look back at this season where he had the most dynamic quarterback in college football and was only able to accomplish 9 wins in the regular season.
You know, the most dynamic quarterback, not only in all of college football, but probably one of the most dynamic quarterbacks college football has ever seen, you know? And so it is something to waste a season, so to speak, like that. And, you know, the offense, I mean, we don't need to talk about how great the offense was, how great Daniels was. Everybody knows that. But when you're giving up more than 30 points a game and 3 or 4 games where they gave up over 40, and the Ole Miss debacle, they just blew it.
Yeah.
And there's no two ways to put it. They should be in the playoffs this year.
So how do they go about improving this defense? Is it as simple as replacing the defensive coordinator?
I'm not one, and you know this from talking to me all season long, I am not one who believes that they don't have adequate personnel to be competitive.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not talking about being one of the top-ranked nations in defenses in the nation, but I definitely err on the side of caution when it comes to criticizing the personnel. And I don't care how young the defensive backs are. I don't care how any of the personnel. We can talk about any stage of it. I think that it's coaching. I think they were in bad positions most of the time, and they weren't executing most of the time. I can still remember the Texas A&M game, the last game of the year, when Texas A&M was just converting third and fourth down after third and fourth down, and Texas A&M comes up to the line of scrimmage on a 4th and 1 at the 50-yard line, and LSU's in a cover 2 with 4 men on the line of scrimmage about 1.5 yards off the ball. It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
That's coaching. And of course there's the Alabama game where it was afterwards an afterthought by Kelly. Perhaps we should have, run a spy a little bit. I'd have liked to have seen us do that. Well, it might have been a good idea since the quarterback ran roughshod over you all game long. Those are coaching things. And you have to, in college football, at any level of competitive football, you have to take your personnel, understand your personnel, understand their strengths, their deficiencies, their where they're good, where they're bad, and take advantage of those. They didn't do that all year long. And even the what do you call it, a grab for the sky to try to bring in Pete Jenkins and hope that would help out.
Hail Mary.
Yeah, it was Hail Mary. It didn't work.
Yeah.
I mean, it may have been a little bit helpful at, for the second or fourth quarter of the Missouri game. It may have helped a little bit, but overall, it wasn't that big of help. And I don't understand how that defense could be that poor all year long. And as far as what I would expect to see in this game, I look for more of the same. The only problem is you're going against an offense that is way more inadequate than you've probably seen all year with, 4 or 5 players out, including their leading running back. And I don't think they've thrown a pass for more than 30 yards all season long. So maybe LSU looks better on defense, but I'm going to be watching to see where they're lined up and what situations and how they're executing and if they can tackle, if they've learned how to tackle, because they still didn't tackle well all season long.
That's Tiger Rag editor Todd Horn. I'm Jeff Palermo. Let's take another break here. When we come back, want to get your take on the wild rumors involving Brian Kelly and Jim Harbaugh and the Michigan Wolverines. Get your take on that. And also want to get some bold predictions for LSU athletics in 2024. So,
ooh, all right.
I hope you've been thinking about that. I told you that I was going to come with it.
Okay.
That's Todd Horn. I'm Jeff Palermo from the Louisiana Radio Network. This is the Hunt Palmer Show, presented by Corks. We'll take another break. When we come back, we'll have one more segment here in hour number 1 of the show, so stay tuned on ESPN 104.5 and 104.9 Baton Rouge.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show.
Over the next few days, this weekend, you're like, I'm done with the kitchen, cleaning dishes. Let's get some catering. Let's go get a sandwich. Jersey Mike's needs to be your spot. Highway 30 in Gonzales, near the new Heritage Shopping Center. Look, stop on in for lunch. Grab one of their awesome sandwiches. The original Italian, I tell you about, that's their best seller. It's what I had last week when I was in there. Ham, prosciutto, capicola, salami, pepperoni, all with that provolone on fresh baked bread. They bake every single morning. Also, their hot sandwiches are fantastic. The bacon ranch chicken cheesesteak rocks. It's awesome. Order that chicken. They put it on the skillet right then. Warm it up. Put the cheese over the top of it. Good stuff over there at Jersey Mike's. And remember them for all your catering in the future. If you're feeding the office, feeding a birthday party, feeding a tailgate party, Jersey Mike's can make it happen for you. And Hunt Palmer Shows Palmer Show listeners get 20% off at Jersey Mike's, Highway 30 in Gonzales. That's Jersey Mike's, a sub above.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Bayou Ford is taking $15,000 off MSRP on new 23 Ford Expedition. $15,000 off new Ford Expedition. And all new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink are a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust Poll of the Day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, live at lunch, Hunt Palmer. And after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the Poll of the Day via Twitter at 1045ESPN.
Glide and twirl in a winter wonderland. Skating on the river is back. Ice skating at the Raising Cane's River Center Arena, December 18th through 31st. Visit RaisingCanesRiverCenter.com for scheduled times, dates, and to purchase tickets. Sponsored by Fox 44, NBC Local 33, Guarantee Media, and Acadian Ambulance.
Would a couple that just came from a couples massage have any use for the massage seats of the Infiniti QX60? Yes, it appears they would. With driver and passenger massage seats, mute all your notifications and feel infinitely you.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985.
New Year from your friends at Off the Bench. We'll be back Tuesday recapping a massive weekend of college and NFL football. How did LSU fare in their bowl game? How did the playoffs shake out? Did the Saints manage to do anything? Plus, weekend winners mailbag. Off the Bench, 7 to 10 a.m., 104.5 ESPN.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp.
Sitting in for Hunt Palmer on this Friday, it's Jeff Palermo from the Louisiana Radio Network. Tiger Rag editor Todd Horn with me for another segment. Me and him, along with William Weathers, we do a show every Tuesday night from 6 to 8 o'clock on Talk 107.3 called Tiger Rag Radio. A lot of speculation or some rumors that have been out there. It's made some headlines. If Jim Harbaugh leaves for the NFL, Michigan may come calling for Brian Kelly. How much stock do you put into that, Todd?
Well, okay. Less than a month ago, Kelly said that he basically pledged allegiance to LSU for the rest of his coaching career. The question is, do you believe coaches, or like Scott Rabelais said the other night, we all know coaches lie.
Yes.
So,
and he's not been always 100% truthful, has BK.
I think it was just a couple years ago where he went on a recruiting trip to California and was telling recruits that, how great things were at Notre Dame, and he had already accepted the LSU job at that point, and he just hadn't announced anything to his team, if I remember that story correctly. He's 62 years old, right? He's making $10 million a year, give or take. I don't think he necessarily wants to go anywhere. I think he would like to stay here. The question I think that you really have to ask yourself after you go through the steps, like, is Harbaugh going to leave? If Harbaugh does leave, does Michigan actually offer him the job? And then you have to look at it and you have to say, okay, it's going to be more money because Michigan has more money. They have a larger endowment. They're going to put more money for it. They've already offered Harbaugh more money than Kelly's making. Kelly has to sit back and look at it and say, do I want to go back to that school that has a good defense, by the way, which actually I'm not joking. I think that plays into a head coach's decision-making ability. He will still be able to win a national championship if he were to go there. It's only going to cost him, according to...
Might be an easier route to a national championship.
Well, defense wins championships, even in today's college football.
Yeah.
And they already had... They're giving up 5 points a game, and they have most of the defense coming back next year, from what I understand. That's enticing.
Does Michigan want him?
I don't know. You tell me. What was his reputation like in that part of the country? Who could Michigan get besides him that would be quote unquote a better choice than Brian Kelly? But again, and I know you were going to ask me another question, but you have to go back and look at it. Is Harbaugh going to leave? I think he probably will.
Yeah.
I think he's tired of it.
Yeah.
He was searching for the last 2 years. I think the Chargers come at him and dangle their great quarterback in his face and dangle him more money and more power and less headache in some regards. And he goes back and is successful in the NFL like he has been in the past. Then the question is, like we're talking about now, does Michigan go to Kelly and say, come join us? If that happens and they do that, then I think we need to start talking about why Kelly would make the jump. He's got a better recruiting base here. That's positive. A negative is Texas and Oklahoma are joining the conference, and it's going to become cannibalization time. It's going to be very tough to win 6 games in this conference moving forward, regardless of how good you are. LSU does not have nearly as competitive NIL as some of the other teams that will be in this conference and are in this conference.
Yeah.
That's a big factor, especially if they don't change how they're governing or add some governance to the NIL. So that's probably a negative. And then, honestly, I think, Kelly talked about the alignment with Scott Woodward and the alignment with William Tate when he came here. I'm not sure that alignment is exactly what he thought it was going to be. And I'm not saying there's a negative relationship between them. I don't know that for a fact. But I do know that there's some things that, Kelly might have expected that he didn't receive. And he's had to do a couple of things that I don't think he necessarily wanted to do.
All right, we got about a minute and a half left. I want to get your take on 2024. You got a bold prediction?
Here's my bold prediction. I predict that since Jalen Cook has come back to the LSU, to the LSU basketball team, I predict that they go to the NIT and upset Will Wade's McNeese in the first round.
I think McNeese is in the NCAA tournament. They play Michigan tonight.
You asked me what my prediction was. That's my bold
I didn't know you were going to
prediction.
go men's basketball.
Okay.
I mean, come on. All right, a couple more. We got 2 minutes here. Who is more likely to repeat as national champs? LSU baseball or LSU women's basketball?
LSU baseball.
I agree with that. Does LSU football make the college football playoff next season? Regardless of who the coach is, who the defensive coordinator is?
If Kelly is the coach,
I
think they will.
Okay.
If it's just Lane Kiffin.
Here's my prediction. They play Oklahoma in the regular season finale. The winner of that game sneaks into the college football playoff. LSU wins it in a wild fashion. 44-41, one of the greatest games ever in Tiger Stadium. Get in as the 12 seed. Have to go up to Michigan, who's the 5 seed. Snowstorm hits Ann Arbor. LSU loses in the first round of the playoffs.
Well, you must be clairvoyant. The specifics of that prediction.
I got this feeling.
Yeah, well, that's huge.
Yeah,
I could see that happening. Now that you said
how fun would that be?
That would be fun. Yeah.
All right, Todd. Thanks a lot, man.
I appreciate it.
All right.
It's fun.
All right. Tiger Rag editor Todd Horn. Again, you can catch him and me along with William Weathers Tuesday nights on Talk 107.3. Coming up in the next hour, we'll talk more about the bowl game. Matt LePay, the voice of the Wisconsin Badgers, he will join us. We'll also hear from Chris Blair. We'll talk about the national semifinals as well. Jerry Palm will join us, and we'll talk about Todd Horn's LSU men's basketball team. Sheldon Mickles will join us as the final guest of the show. This is Jeff Palermo. I'm sitting in for Hunt Palmer on this Friday afternoon. His show's on Friday, presented by corksfishandshrimp.com. We'll take a break, and when we come back, we'll get a scouting report on the Wisconsin Badgers. Stay tuned for that here on the Hunt Palmer Show.
Life in Louisiana is like a run-on sentence. A poem that doesn't rhyme. Life is here, now. For life's moments, big and small, always there. The right card, the right care.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared towards seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
The interior of an Infiniti is thoughtfully designed to be all about you. And by you, we mean every version of you. Because there's luxury you can feel, and there's luxury that lets you feel. Infinitely you. Experience luxury like never before with Infiniti Premium Care, included with the 2023 QX80 at your local retailer.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
At Relief Windows, we're more than windows. We're windows, doors, hardy plank, and vinyl siding. But our #1 product is always customer satisfaction. Visit us online at reliefwindows.com.
This is Sports Center.
I'm
Christine Lisi. The Dolphins will be without their second leading receiver for their massive matchup against the Ravens Sunday, a game featuring two teams in the running for the AFC's 1 seed. Confirmation from Coach Mike McDaniel that Jalen Waddle will not play due to a high ankle sprain. Bengals receiver Jamar Chase, limited at practice for a second straight day, remains uncertain ahead of Sunday's game versus the Chiefs with that shoulder injury. Chase took a dig at Kansas City yesterday, telling reporters nothing stood out to him regarding KC's secondary and they don't have a lockdown corner. Also said, just adding fuel to the fire. ESPN NFL analyst Dan Orlovsky.
Now, my little pushback would be like, I think L'Jarius Sneed is a pretty legit man cover corner. Bolton and Gay are really good linebackers. They got one of the best defensive tackles in football, and Chris Jones. So I don't necessarily agree with that. They don't have like maybe an elite player in reference to the Jalen Ramsey.
Dan Orlovsky on First Take. The Bills anticipate defensive tackle Daquan Jones and safety Micah Hyde returning from injury against the Patriots Sunday. NBA Suns guard Bradley Beal back from a right ankle sprain versus the Hornets tonight.
Hey, it's Michelle Smallman from Unsportsmanlike. I just want to wish everyone a happy and healthy holiday and a happy new year. We'll see you in 2024. It's Unsportsmanlike, 6 a.m. Eastern, right here on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and ESPNU.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I direct your attention to something quite extraordinary?
Now, the Hunt Palmer Show. The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge Studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Yeah, sitting in for Hunt Palmer on this Friday, it's Jeff Palermo, News and Sports Director of the Louisiana Radio Network. Glad he can join us. Got one more hour to go. We're going to talk a lot about the bowl game. Matt LePay, we're going to talk with him here shortly. He's the voice of the Wisconsin Badgers. And then we'll talk to the voice of the LSU Tigers, Chris Blair. We'll also look ahead to the semifinal games, and I can't wait for these. Alabama and Michigan, and, of course, Texas and Washington in New Orleans. Jerry Palm from CBS Sports will join us. And to help tip off your sports weekend, you got LSU men's basketball back in action tonight. Sheldon Mickles, who covers the Fighting Tigers, and Matt McMahon's team from The Advocate. He'll join us to help preview tonight's game against Northwestern State. But let's look ahead to the ReliaQuest Bowl, LSU and Wisconsin at 11 a.m. Central. And here to talk about Wisconsin and what they're bringing to the table, it's Matt LePay, the voice of the Badgers. Matt, Happy New Year. Merry Christmas. How you doing today?
Happy New Year. Merry Christmas to you. Good to be on with you.
Well, it's great to have you on. I appreciate you taking some time to talk with us. So Wisconsin has several more opt-outs than LSU. I guess one of the main ones offensively is Braylon Allen, the leading rusher for Wisconsin this past season as he is getting ready for the NFL. Tell us a little bit more about some of the other guys that were big parts of this Badgers team in 2023 that will not be playing in this bowl game.
Yeah, you mentioned Braylon's the biggest piece, but I get it. He's trying to get himself ready for the draft. Chimere Dike, one of your receivers, the most veteran of the receiving corps. He had really modest statistics this year, but a good career at Wisconsin. He is now a Florida Gator. Skylar Bell, a slot receiver, has decided to move on. Again, a good, solid player. Probably the most productive, well, not probably, you look at the statistics, and the most productive would be one of the inside linebackers, Jordan Turner, who is from Michigan. I don't know how much of a factor that was, but he is transferring closer to home. He's now a Michigan State Spartan, but he was a really good inside linebacker for Wisconsin. So it's definitely going to look different for the Badgers. I think the way we look at bowl games now nationally in a lot of cases is that, coaches used to always say it's a developmental practice time for these guys. Well, it's all of that, but it could be a chance for these young guys who didn't play much at all during the season to all of a sudden get into the rotation, and that's likely going to happen for Wisconsin on Monday.
Well, Wisconsin will have its starting quarterback for this game, Tanner Mordecai. He's an older guy, 24 years old, from Waco, and he missed part of the season, had an injury. Those were games that really Wisconsin struggled offensively in those games in particular. But he's played a lot of college football. I mean, the last 3 seasons, he's played a ton. This is a guy that has thrown for as many as 3,600 yards back in 2021 when he was over at SMU. Give me your take on what we've seen from Tanner and what we can expect. And again, this was, Mordecai, a guy, he was recruited by Lincoln Riley and Oklahoma back all the way in 2018. So he's a talented quarterback. He's been around a while, and he'll be going up against a suspect LSU defense.
Well, he's tough as nails. I mean, he's a guy that, I was just on a show here in Wisconsin a few minutes ago, and you really have to look beyond the statistics for him because there's not a ton of statistics there this season that's going to wow you. I mean, 6 touchdown passes, not quite 1,700 yards through the air, but there's a toughness to him. Talking to Luke Fickell halfway into the season, and he described Mordecai as just an animal, just how he attacks every day. And when he got hurt in the Iowa game in mid-October, he fought like crazy to get back as soon as he can. And really it was a difference maker for this team with his ability to run the ball. I mean, it's not Jaden Daniels type of running ability, but he was a quarterback, or is a quarterback that can hurt defenses with his feet. He can extend plays. He can pull it down and run. And in the last couple of games in particular, that really was something that was a big plus for Wisconsin. And I would think without Braylon Allen, Ches Malusi, their other tailback, got hurt early in the year. With a couple of younger guys in the backfield, you would think that Tanner's going to have to be able to do some things with his feet as much so as with his arm.
Talking with Matt LePay, I'm Jeff Palermo, filling in for Hunt Palmer today. Matt is the voice of the Wisconsin Badgers. Luke Fickell trying to bring the air raid offense there to Madison, Wisconsin. Obviously, this season has been a bit of a transition year, but offensively, and I don't know how much we're going to be able to see it come Monday, but how do they feel about the growth of this offense and where it's going?
Well, definitely a work in progress. One of the things that plagued the offense this season was the number of drops. There were a lot of situations where there wasn't a lot of help for Tanner Mordecai if the pass wasn't perfect. I mean, there's really no delicate way to put that. But a guy who was really good for Wisconsin this year was Will Pauling, a slot receiver. He's a transfer from Cincinnati. Ended up with 66 catches and was really productive on third down for Wisconsin this season. He's just someone who had a lot of targets and a lot of productivity on third down. Other guys, without Chimere Dike, without Skylar Bell, they're going to be looking for some younger players like a Vinny Anthony. Handful of catches this season, runs well, sophomore out of Louisville. C.J. Williams, a transfer from USC, again, really modest statistics, but someone I think they're going to need more from. Bryson Green, Oklahoma State transfer, missed some time late in the year because of an injury, but he's a good, strong kid, and you figure that with contested balls he can get more than his share. But this is also a time for guys with maybe 1 or 2 catches or none who are going to get in the rotation. Quincy Burrows, a redshirt freshman and also a Cincinnati transfer, had 2 catches all year, and that was in a game against Nebraska in their 11th game of the year. And a young guy out of Hawaii named Tretch Kekahuna was hurt in training and was kind of slow just getting up and running, but appeared in some games late in the year for Wisconsin as a return man and is the number 2 slot receiver right now. He can really run well, and I think everybody around here is excited to see what he can do on Monday.
One more question here for Matt LePay, the voice of the Wisconsin Badgers. He'll be on the call on the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network for the ReliaQuest Bowl between the Tigers and the Badgers. Defensively, Wisconsin only gave up 19 points a game. You mentioned Jordan Turner, their inside linebacker, now at Michigan State. What could we expect from this Wisconsin defense as it tries to slow down a prolific LSU offense that will have a new starter at quarterback in Garrett Nussmeier?
Yeah, I think the one thing that I have to preface this with is that the Big Ten West, every team in the division was offensively challenged.
Yeah.
So,
right.
I mean,
right.
there's no getting around that. They played Ohio State, held the Buckeyes to 24 points, so that was the best offense they had faced until Monday, and then now Ohio State will be a distant second in terms of offensive productivity if you just look at the statistics. I'm interested to see how much LSU changes. Obviously, Daniels was such a great running threat, and the stats don't show that with Garrett Nussmeier, but I'm thinking he could probably move around a little bit if need be. But all the receivers, just the weapons everywhere that LSU has. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. The Badger defensive players know that they are in for a test unlike any they have faced all year. Just with the offensive line talent, there are no weaknesses when you look at LSU's offense. And for Wisconsin, statistically they did get better defensively, and the numbers certainly aren't bad at all. But they get punched early. They've given up points really early in games, and they've been able to. The last couple of outings, they got away with it. But those were offenses that are nowhere near what LSU has. To me, the worst thing for Wisconsin would be to, look up and find yourself down 10 or 14 points in the first quarter, because when you could maybe against the Nebraskas of the world, you could get away with it. Against LSU, probably not.
Right. One other final question here for you, Matt. How fired up is the Wisconsin fan base for this game? I know Bulls are not what they were. Heck, even just 2 years ago, it seems like. But is this a game that the fan base is excited to see?
I think lukewarm would be the fair answer. I think when Monday gets here, then people will tune in because they love their team,
right?
And they want to see them do well. But the hype, the build up to it, you're right. It's different, and it's a January 1st bowl, so that means something. But it's still, this wasn't given the hype going into the year, and which was probably unrealistic to begin with. But they went 7-5, and they didn't win the West in a year it was there for the taking. But they'll be ready to go. They'll shake off the effects of New Year's Eve in time for an 11 a.m. kick Central against LSU. So in the end they'll tune in, but the conversation, it's been pretty modest at best. I think at least my interactions with fans here. But that's not unexpected,
right,
when they've had a season that's been just a little bit above average.
Matt, thanks a lot for your time. We appreciate it. Happy New Year. Have a great call on New Year's Day, and maybe we'll talk down the road. Maybe when we'll talk about a playoff game between these two programs in the future.
Then there would be a little bit more hype, right? So,
yes, there would be, Matt. There certainly would be.
You guys take care. Have a good one.
All right, that's Matt LePay. He's the voice of the Wisconsin Badgers. We'll talk to the voice of the LSU Tigers, Chris Blair. He's got a game tonight, LSU taking on Northwestern State, but we'll get his thoughts on the ReliaQuest Bowl game matchup between LSU and Wisconsin. Stay tuned. This is Jeff Palermo from the Louisiana Radio Network, filling in for Hunt Palmer. We'll be back after this on ESPN 104.5 and 104.9 Baton Rouge.
The Hunt Palmer Show. In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
At Relief Windows, we're more than windows. We're windows, doors, party plank, and vinyl siding. But our number one product is always customer satisfaction. Visit us online at reliefwindows.com. Oh, by the way, we do shutters too.
His name was King. He had a horse along the countryside. I saw him ride. One day they found him.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Would a couple that just came from a couples massage have any use for the massage seats of the Infiniti QX60? Yes, it appears they would. With driver and passenger massage seats, mute all your notifications and feel.
Sandegrove, join us for the Tuesday edition of Live at Lunch from Doe's Eat Place on Government Street in Mid-City. We're back after the National Championship semifinals and LSU's bowl game. Live at Lunch, 11 a.m. on Tuesday from 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp.
Sitting in for Hunt Palmer on this Friday, it's Jeff Palermo, and Hunt Palmer Show on Fridays presented by Corks. Check out their menu at corksfishandshrimp.com. This Tax Slayer Gator Bowl is off the rails at the moment. Kentucky has just retaken the lead over Clemson. It's been a game that has gone back and forth. They're late in the fourth quarter, and Kentucky now leads it 33-30 over the Clemson, 34-30 over the Clemson Tigers, pending the extra point. We now bring in, stand corrected, the voice of the Tigers, Chris Blair, is already in Tampa. So that must mean Patrick Wright's got the call for today's men's game between the Tigers and Northwestern State. But want to talk a little bowl game with the voice of the LSU Tigers, Chris Blair. Chris, how are things in the Sunshine State?
Well, pretty nice. Yeah, to be honest with you, a little bit of rain yesterday, but overcast skies and mild temperatures, what you would expect this time of year here in Central Florida.
Well, thanks a lot for spending a few minutes with me on this Friday afternoon. Chris, what does it say about the culture of this program that you only have one player that has really opted out, a starter anyways, in Jaden Daniels?
Yeah, I mean, I think you listen to a lot of the players, and I listened to them last week prior to the Christmas holiday, and then what they talked about since arriving here in Tampa on Tuesday. You know, it's important to them. You know, it's one of the things Coach Kelly talked about a lot and has talked about since he was hired, and that is finding a way to build the foundation. And, you know, again, we want it built yesterday. We wanted it built a year ago, but that's just kind of not how it works in reality. So, you know, I think there's a lot of these players bought into the fact that it's important to play 10 wins, to get 10 wins, springboard into spring 2024. And, you know, I think that's why you got a lot of guys participating. And let's face it, I mean, there's a lot of young players, Jeff, that played, meaningful minutes during the regular season due to a number of reasons. So for that matter, I think they're taking the most of the opportunity for the bowl practices plus a chance to play one game.
What do you think of Garrett Nussmeier getting the start? I would imagine that kid is just chomping at the bit to finally get a chance to start a game. I mean, when you go all the way back since 2020 to do something, and I understand he's appeared in several games, and he played a majority of a game in 2021 and got action in the SEC championship game in 2022. But now it's his show, at least for this one game. What are you anticipating and what are you looking forward to seeing from Garrett Nussmeier?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think the fact that it's his first career start, having played in a number of games, meaningful moments throughout his career, but this is when the offense is yours. And, I go back to your previous point, he's going to have his offensive line, a veteran group, talented group. He's going to have great receivers, obviously, with Malik, Brian Thomas, and Kyron Lacey. He's got the weapons around him. And, since day one of bowl prep, I mean, they've been preparing him for this moment. So it's not as if he wasn't expecting to be here. He's had the time to mentally get ready, physically get ready. And, I think for me, I'm just looking for his decision-making. I know he can make the throws. We saw it in Atlanta last year in that loss to Georgia when, again, he's got no problem letting it go, and he throws a good ball. It's the decision-making that I think where he's got to take a step forward, and hopefully we'll see that tomorrow because he doesn't have to force a lot of things. You look at this Wisconsin defense, I think there's going to be opportunities in the passing game. I think there's some opportunities for our running backs to have a field day. So if you're Garrett Nussmeier, Jeff, I don't think you've got to force anything. And a lot of times, if you're on the same page as your receivers, those guys are going to get open. Just put the ball in their hands, and they'll do the rest. Talking to the voice of the Tigers, Chris Blair, Joe Sloan, and Cortez Hankton, co-offensive coordinators for this game against Wisconsin. They're not, obviously, the offense is not going to make major changes, but any idea on what maybe subtle changes we could see? Especially you got a new play caller and you got obviously a new quarterback out there on Monday. Yeah, I think a lot of it's going to be, kind of a consortium, if you will, between both Coach Hankton, Coach Sloan, and Garrett Nussmeier, all three in new positions, as it were, going into this bowl game. And I talked to Coach Kelly early in the year after the hit on Jaden against Alabama when it was a question mark as to playing in the following game. And, Coach made it known that there is a set of plays that really aligns strictly for Jaden Daniels' skills. And there's a set in the playbook that is set for Garrett Nussmeier's skill set. So I think they're going to lean heavy on that. I don't see a lot of major changes. Obviously, probably won't have as many design runs. They saw with King Daniels. Again, I think you're running back through the line. And when you've got, the best mentality of football, just.
I think we finally lost him. Oh, you're back, Chris?
Yeah, I mean.
Okay, all right.
I got you.
Yeah, we lost you there for the last second. Here, let me ask you one more question, then we'll cut you loose. Defensively, could see a lot more of Deshaun Womack in this game. How excited are you to see them try to sprinkle in some of the younger guys on this defense and see if something happens, maybe even a little more playing time for Whit Weeks as well?
Yeah, I think that's what you need to do. I mean, I'll be honest. I mean, at this point of the season, the defense has been much maligned all year. Why not, just put all of that behind you? That's kind of what I've heard from the coaching staff since we arrived here is that this is the 2024 defense because you're going to have those young guys. You're going to have Womack get the start. You're going to see a lot of Whit Weeks. So let's go out there and turn over a new leaf, if you will, defensively. I think they've got a little chip on their shoulder as well. So, again, it's a Wisconsin offense that is air raid in theory, although the numbers, not the air raid that you would think of with Mike Leach or Hal Mumme of days gone by at Kentucky. But Phil Longo, the OC, decided to go with the air raid years ago after a meeting with Mike Leach. But his is more of a balanced attack based on what the defense shows you as opposed to just forcing the pass time and time again. But I think this is a chance for this defense to step up and, again, springboard their way into 2024 with a little momentum.
It'll be an early wake-up call on Monday morning, Chris, so ring in the new year as safe and appropriately as possible, and look forward to your call on Monday between LSU and Wisconsin.
You got it, Jeff, shutting it down at 12:01 Tuesday.
All right, man. That's good, probably good advice for yourself. I appreciate it, sir. Thanks a lot. Happy New Year, Chris.
Thanks. Happy New Year, Jeff.
All right, that is the voice of the LSU Tigers, Chris Blair, in Tampa, getting ready for the game on Monday morning at 11 o'clock. And our coverage on the LSU Sports Radio Network begins at 9 o'clock, all beginning on Eagle 98.1. We'll take a break after the LSU-Wisconsin game. You know, LSU-Wisconsin is kind of it's the appetizer, right? You're gonna get up after what could be a long night the night before, get up, watch the game, consume it, eat a little lunch, and then you certainly by mid-afternoon, you get a bit of a break, right? The LSU-Wisconsin game should end around 2:30 if everything goes right. And then 3:30 is about the kickoff between Michigan and Alabama, and then the real football begins. The two semifinal games, Alabama and Michigan, Washington and Texas. When we come back here on the Hunt Palmer Show, Jerry Palm from CBS Sports will help us break down these two great semifinal games. And I think finally, for the first time in the 14 playoff, we'll actually have two great semifinal games. It's been hard. It's been hard some years to just get one, but you have, I think, four great teams in there, and both games should come down. Should be when the fourth quarter starts. Both games, I think, should still be in doubt. You're not going to know who's going to win. So it's going to be some outstanding football to watch, compelling football to watch come New Year's Day. Jerry Palm will join us from CBS Sports when we come back. This is the Hunt Palmer Show. I'm Jeff Palermo. We'll be back after this here on ESPN 104.5 and 104.9 Baton Rouge.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show. Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
LWCC is Louisiana loyal. They're elevating and celebrating champions of Louisiana. We've been telling you about LWCC's Champions of Louisiana campaign for a year and a half now, and it's such a cool thing they're doing over there at LWCC. And Marucci Sports certainly is a champion of Louisiana. It's not just that they bring boatloads of tourist dollars to Baton Rouge with the Marucci World Series every year. No, it's not just that they make some bats that LSU's baseball team uses. They've got their baseball performance lab that attracts talent from all over the country, one, to use it. That includes Major League Baseball players. Two, to work in it. Louisiana always fights that battle of getting talent to come into the state to work and keeping talent here in our state. And LWCC recognizes Marucci has absolutely done that. That's why they are a champion of Louisiana. If you know a champion of Louisiana, go to lwcc.com/champions to nominate them. Marucci Sports, a champion of Louisiana.
Hey, boat owners, check it out. It is the holiday season, which means it's time to buy yourself a gift by taking your boat to the next level with our friends at Front to Back Boat Service. Now is the perfect time to upgrade your boat and get it ready for that warmer weather, whether that's trolling motors, HD sonar, anything and everything. The Sherman family's been at it for 30 years, and Devin's going to take you through 30 more. Find them on Facebook at Front to Back Boat Service or go to fronttobackboatservice.com.
Elevate brand visibility, ignite customer engagement with the power of radio and digital advertising combined. Guarantee Digital Media brings the two together as a trusted media partner in Louisiana for nearly a century. Claim your free digital audit at guaranteemedia.com.
The interior of an Infiniti is thoughtfully designed to be all about you. And by you, we mean every version of you. Because there's luxury you can feel, and there's luxury that lets you feel. Infinitely you. Experience luxury like never before with Infiniti Premium Care, included with the 2023 QX80 at your local retailer.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded.
So join us for Friday's AFR presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar. I'm in for Matt one more day. We're giving you final thoughts on the ReliaQuest Bowl between the Tigers and the Badgers and the Saints' trip to Tampa. It's Friday's AFR 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp.
Sitting in for Hunt Palmer, it's Jeff Palermo, News and Sports Director, Louisiana Radio Network. Wow, what a finish to this Tax Slayer Gator Bowl in a bowl season that has been not all that exciting. Heck, maybe one of the games of the year, or at least one of the great finishes of the year. Just occurred with Clemson scoring a touchdown with 17 seconds left to take a 1-point lead over Kentucky, 36-35. I think they're going to review that touchdown, but it looks like he got in there. But a nice win for Dabo Swinney. Been a tough year for Clemson. 8-4 going into this game. Looks like they'll get to 9-4 as they're going for 2 at the moment, and they get it. Let's bring in our next guest, Jerry Palm from CBS Sports. Jerry, let's hope tomorrow's, or I should say Monday's, semifinal games are just as exciting as this Tax Slayer Gator Bowl.
It's been great. And, you know, you're kind of talking about it like it might be over. Kentucky's already run a kickback for a touchdown.
You're right. And they had almost a 60-yard touchdown pass the last time they had
this,
it. So.
This game has really been great. This fourth quarter, I don't know that either team had, you know, like more than 21 points in the fourth quarter, but it's been back and forth. 52-yard field goal that hit the crossbar and bounced over.
That's had
which
a little
is the
bit
difference in the game right now.
It's had a little bit of everything, no doubt about it.
That's fun.
Yeah, it has been fun. Hopefully Monday will be good. We're talking with Jerry Palm of CBS Sports. Jerry, is this, in this 4-team college football playoff era, is this the best we've ever had as far as semifinal matchups combined?
Maybe, because, you know, you've got 2 undefeated teams and 2 really good one-loss teams, one of which shouldn't be there, but that's water under the bridge at this point.
Right.
But you could have had 3 undefeated teams, which I don't know if we've had 3 undefeated teams. We might have had it once or twice. But it's been, these are really good teams, and they're really accomplished teams. And you've got kind of a mix. You've got one semifinal with teams that have been here. Alabama's a previous champion, and then you've got Washington and Texas who haven't been here. Well, Texas has definitely never been here. Washington was in the first one,
right? But
nobody involved with the program then is still involved with the program now. So it's a new experience for everybody playing for Washington and coaching for Washington. So it's two different mixes, but I think it makes for a fun semifinal, hopefully.
It starts with the Rose Bowl, Michigan and Alabama. Michigan, talent-wise, is a better team than Alabama, I think. Do you agree with that?
No, because Alabama's recruits, Alabama and Georgia and Ohio State are on a different level than everyone else when it comes to recruiting.
Okay.
Now, Michigan isn't far outside that level, but Alabama's probably the more talented team. I don't know that it's a big enough difference for it to matter. Where you'd say, yeah, I don't know how Michigan overcomes it.
Right.
Michigan can just execute better and overcome it. The talent level isn't that different, but I think that when you look at recruiting year in and year out, it's Georgia, Ohio State, Alabama,
Right.
those three teams, one way or one order or another.
Is Michigan's offense dynamic enough? I understand this Alabama defense isn't maybe as good as some of those great Alabama defenses they had. I don't know, in the 20 teens or whatever however you want to describe that era.
It's plenty good enough.
It's and that's the thing. I mean, I guess I go back to all those years when, especially the Les Miles era with LSU, and they would just run up against a brick wall because their offense was they just tried to be the more stronger and powerful team at the line of scrimmage than Alabama, and it never worked. You need a dynamic offense to go up against this Alabama defense, and I don't know if J.J. McCarthy and this Wolverines passing attack is dynamic enough to move the ball up and down the field.
Yeah, it's not really their style. Michigan likes to control the ball, so they're going to run. They'll take the occasional deep shot, but mostly they're going to try and control the ball with the passing game as well. 10 to maybe 30 yards downfield. Those kinds of, or passes even behind the line and let their running backs go to work or their wideouts go to work and wide receiver screens. So you'll see the tight end. It's a good offensive line. So they're going to rely on that group, that offensive line. It's the strength of their offense. J.J. McCarthy's good, Blake Corum's good. They're going to put some guys from the skill position to the NFL, but the offensive line is the strength of that offense, and they're going to rely on it.
What do you see as far as the matchup of Alabama's offense and a quarterback that is playing for the Crimson Tide with a lot of confidence at the moment in Jalen Milroe going up against this Michigan defense that has been very salty all year?
Yeah, they've been great. They've been one of the most efficient defenses all season. Now, for the most part, they were playing Big Ten teams. And other than Ohio State, and I guess Maryland's a really good offensive team, not much defensively, but, nobody else has really tested Michigan's defense this year. So it'll be interesting to see. They haven't seen athletes, except at Ohio State, the caliber of the athletes that Alabama's going to run out there on the field. And Ohio State didn't really play a mobile quarterback like Jalen Milroe can be. And, in fact, probably the closest they saw in terms of style to the quarterback that to Milroe this season was Tagliavoa for Maryland. And Maryland scored in the 20s. Maryland had the best offensive performance against Michigan really all season. So I think that Alabama has some things they can take advantage of there. But the thing, it's the thing I really like most about Alabama in this matchup is that they've been there and done that.
Right.
And Michigan's been there but hasn't done that. But Alabama's been there and done that. They know how to win in this environment. And even though I thought Alabama should have been the team left out of the playoffs, not because they're not a good team, there were four that had better cases to be in than Alabama did. Now that they're there, I actually picked them to win the whole thing. So it's partly because of their experience in this event compared to that of everyone else, because I think the talent is relatively equal, and the success of these teams has been relatively equal.
Let's talk about the other semifinal matchup that will happen in New Orleans in the Caesars Superdome in the Sugar Bowl, Washington versus Texas. As you mentioned, Washington making its second ever appearance in the college football playoff. Their last one was in 2016 when they lost to Alabama in the semifinals. Texas, they have never been there. The last time they've come this close was in 2009 when they lost to Alabama in the BCS National Championship game that year.
Right.
A lot of focus, obviously, on Michael Penix Jr., the Heisman Trophy runner-up. But for the Huskies, doesn't their offense really start with Dylan Johnson and that running attack?
Yeah, it does. They're going to have to be balanced if they're going to have success against Texas, because Texas's defensive front seven is really good. And if they can just, pin their ears back and come after the quarterback, it's going to be hard for Michael Penix. He's a great player. He's the best quarterback of the four in the playoffs, and there's a gap between him and the others. The others are good, but he's the best. But if you can't protect him and you can't run the ball and you just allow Texas to come after him, it's going to be a long day for that Washington offense. They have the offensive line that won the Joe Moore Award this year, the best offensive line in the country, or at least they got the award for it. So obviously it's a strength, and they're really going to be tested in this game. And I don't want to ignore the other side of the ball, but I think the matchup of the Washington offensive line against the Texas front seven is probably going to decide this game.
Quinn Ewers had a really good game in the Big 12 championship game, 452-yard, 4-touchdown performance. He was someone, though, that missed a few games because of a shoulder injury. How do you see him performing in this game going up against that Huskies defense?
Yeah, that should be a good matchup as well. I think that Texas is going to be able to score some. Washington has seen some pretty prolific offenses this year and is able to go toe-to-toe with them and finds ways to win, which is maybe the best quality that Washington has, is that they've played a lot of tough games and won all of them. I mean, that's a team that knows how to finish the job when the going gets tight at the end of games. And so I really like that about them. I think that Texas is going to have some success offensively against Washington. They should be able to get into the 20s at least, and they might even get to 30. But, Washington, their offense is so dynamic and explosive that if their offensive line can do the job, I like Washington in this game, and I think it'll be close.
And they have won 9 consecutive games by 10 points or less, have the Huskies.
Yeah, and most of those were 7 or less.
I mean, that's pretty impressive, the way they figure it out. And I just kind of feel like, Jerry, that I agree. I think Alabama's the favorite to win this thing now that they're all in it. But I also look at Washington, and it just seems like they're having one of those seasons, right, where it just doesn't feel like it should end in the semifinals. I know that's not the greatest analysis in the world, but they're having a season that should end in a national championship game.
Yeah, this team, it's got some intangibles. It's got plenty of tangibles too. You don't get here on intangibles, but the confidence at the end of the game, whether you're up 3, down 7, whatever, the game can still bear to be had, and for sure you can do it. They have that more than any other team of these four.
Jerry, thanks a lot for your time. Happy New Year. Enjoy the rest of the bowl season. Clemson did end up winning that game, and now it's Memphis and Iowa State, so that game has a lot to live up to after watching the Wildcats and the Tigers play. But thanks a lot for your time, man. Keep up the good work with CBS Sports.
All right, thank you.
All right, Jerry Palm here on the Hunt Palmer Show. We'll wrap up the show when we come back in the next segment, talk some LSU hoops. Sheldon Mickles from the Advocate will join us. Stay tuned for that. I'm Jeff Palermo. This is the Hunt Palmer Show. One more segment to go on ESPN 104.5 and 104.9 Baton Rouge.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boudreaux's Electric. Boudreaux's Electric. Boudreaux's Electric. Certified Generac generator dealer. Not just that, premier Generac generator dealer. That means they're in the top 3% nationwide. Neil and Melissa Boudreaux been running the company for 40 years. Listen up, listeners of the Hunt Palmer Show. If you give Boudreaux's Electric a call, I'm going to give you the phone number here in a second, but if you call them between now and Christmas and agree to have a generator installed at your home or your business, they're going to give you a deal. I'm just telling you. So give them a call. Tell them you heard about it on the Hunt Palmer Show. There are savings to be had between now and Christmas. But give them a call. That number, 225-300-9389, 225-300-9389. 9389. Protect yourself from power outages, especially during storm season, with a Generac generator from Boudreaux's Electric. Give them a call. That number one more time, 225-300-9389.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
The world's leaders in obesity research, obesity medicine, and obesity science are right here.
We're doing something that no one's ever done, or trying to answer a question that no one's ever asked before.
Pennington is a real jewel when it comes to research.
We are finding the solutions to the world's worst chronic disease, which is obesity. Louisiana needs Pennington Biomedical.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Would a couple that just came from a couples massage have any use for the massage seats of the Infiniti QX60? Yes, it appears they would. With driver and passenger massage seats, mute all your notifications and feel infinitely you.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs.
New Year from your friends on Off the Bench. We'll be back Tuesday recapping a massive weekend of college and NFL football. How did LSU fare in their bowl game? How did the playoffs shake out? Did the Saints manage to do anything? Plus, weekend winners mailbag. Off the Bench, 7 to 10 a.m., 104.5 ESPN.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp.
Wrapping it up here on the Hunt Palmer Show. It's been a pleasure to sit in for Hunt. Jeff Palermo, News and Sports Director, Louisiana Radio Network. Got to talk a little LSU men's hoops. They get back at it tonight against Northwestern State. Here to help break it down for a few minutes anyway, Sheldon Mickles from The Advocate. He covers the LSU men's basketball program. Sheldon, Happy New Year. Thanks for spending a few minutes with me today. How you doing?
Doing fine. Happy New Year to you, and looking forward to a better year from the Tigers in the old basketball on the old basketball court. A little bit better than last year, anyway.
Well, Jalen Cook will be making his second start, we presume, tonight. How much better does he make this team, Sheldon?
It's kind of hard to tell so far, but I mean, the Texas game was a good litmus test for him. But he came in, in I guess 5 minutes into the game. And he was a little bit rusty, of course, but the thing was he wound up with 6 assists and 1 turnover.
and then against Lamar, which was obviously a bit of a lesser test, if you will. He had five assists and 1 turnover. And as I was telling somebody today, he seems like they get into the flow of the offense more. Jordan Wright went off in the second half of that Texas game, and part of that was due to, and he credited, after the game, he credited Jalen Cook with making the basket look bigger for him because he got him in the right spots to make those shots that he made. And it kind of carried over into the Lamar game when he looked like he was a lot more comfortable. It was a week later almost, and he looked like he was a lot more comfortable. And I assume, I would expect that he's going to get a lot more comfortable here in the next, couple of weeks, and maybe even as early as tomorrow, as tonight, because the guy is too good of a player not to, and he just looks like he directs the offense better. Mike Williams was doing a good job as a true freshman, but he still has a little rough edges to him, handling the ball, getting the ball where it needs to be. So I think Jalen Cook is going to give him a much different dynamic point guard, and that they could go into the SEC with.
This is a program that just won 2 conference games last year, and conference action will begin a week from Saturday against Texas A&M. How much better is this program? Are we looking at more than 2 wins, I guess, is the easy question to ask here, Sheldon. And I know that might be a long answer that you'd provide, but I guess just your thoughts of how much better it could be over a 2-16 team last year in the league play.
Well, once again, like I said, I think Jalen Cook's going to make a big difference. Jordan Wright is going to make a big difference over last year. The big guys they got down low now at the forward spot, and along with Will Baker, I think they're going to be better. But how much better is the rest of the league? I just saw Charlie Hannegriff a few minutes ago, and Charlie said he thinks more like 4 maybe. And I've been thinking maybe 5 wins, 6 wins in the conference. And I think that's a pretty good, bar to put. And if they go past that, that's fine. If they go past 2, I would hope they're going to win more than 2.
Right.
But I'm looking at 5 or 6 for now. And, maybe you never know. Get a break here and there. You win 7, maybe 8,
Yeah. I know it's only year 2, and we knew this was going to be a big rebuilding process. Let's face it. At one point, Matt McMahon had 0 players on his roster when he took over. But what's the sense that you get from it, Coach, about just how difficult of a process this has been? Has it maybe been even harder than he thought it was going to be?
He'll never admit that. But I mean, like you just stated, he had no players. He wound up getting a few of those guys back. But I think in the long run, he wants to build this. I think he's trying to do like Brian Kelly's going to try to do and wean themselves off the transfer portal, because it's not all it's cracked up to be anymore. Sometimes guys are going to be coming in and they're going to have to sit out a redshirt year like they used to if they're a 2-time transfer, and possibly if that doesn't get changed. But I would think he wants to develop players. So he wants to get guys that are coming in as freshmen and then work them in and then work them more as sophomores. That's how he did it at Murray State. Now, he had a better opportunity to do that at Murray State because of the competition, the level of competition. Here, you have to do it quickly and in the SEC. So, maybe he's going to have to hit a balance of, recruits. Like this year, he only signed 2 guys, and one of them's playing, the other one's considering redshirting. So, he's going to have to decide, get a little balance there maybe, because you're not going to go and sign 6 freshmen anymore unless you're Kentucky or North Carolina or Duke. You're not going to sign 6 kids, 4 and 5 stars. You're not going to do that at LSU. So I think he needs to find a balance. But they had, like I said, 6 or 7 transfers this year. He liked the experience this year that he got in Jordan Wright, Jalen Cook, Will Baker, even those guys that he brought in. He liked their experience. That was one of the big things. Now, looking forward, next year, can he get a few more players to develop in the program, like Mike Williams, like Corey Chest, and I think he's got 2 signees already for next year. So I think he really deep down wants to develop his own players.
Carlos Stewart. We got about a minute left here. I'm waiting for Carlos Stewart to get a little bit more, become more of a scorer. Is that something that's possible, Sheldon?
Carlos looked terrific the other night. Now, and Matt McMahon even said that he had scored 3 points in the previous 4 or 5 games he played. Didn't get off the bench at Texas, and I think we talked to Matt McMahon. Matt McMahon said, "Hey, I talked to him before practice." Carlos admitted it before Matt said it. Carlos admitted he got on me. We talked about it, and he said, I came out of practice. He got some playing time, and he did well. He scored 16 points. So I think he could be a better scorer than he had shown early in the year.
Sheldon, thanks a lot for your time, man. We really appreciate it. Enjoy your work with the Advocate, and we'll see. Hopefully, maybe this team can surprise some folks. But I appreciate your time this afternoon.
No problem anytime, and Happy New Year.
All right, Happy New Year to you. That's Sheldon Mickles from the Advocate. That does it for me. Jeff Palermo, News and Sports Director, Louisiana Radio Network. It's been a blast here, filling in for Hunt Palmer. Want to thank our producers here, Casey Gaines and Jacob Beck. Coming up next, it's going to be Matt Musell filling in once again for Matt Moscona. Have a great
Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust Poll of the Day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, live at lunch, Hunt Palmer. And after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the Poll of the Day via Twitter at 1045ESPN.
Yo, Jake here from my friends over at Community Steel Company located in Gonzales, Louisiana. The local place you can turn to for all of your metal building needs. Notice I said local, not Houston, not Dallas, not Atlanta, but right here in Gonzales. Visit them at their brand new state-of-the-art website at communitysteelco.com or pick up the phone and give them a call today to answer all of your questions